1. Nothing in particular has happened, but I'm so close to being burnt out. I'm tired, depressed, and not appreciated here. Ever since my bosses closed down one of their other properties, so much dumb nonsense has happened, and I wonder if I'll be better off somewhere else that has better pay and at a job where I'm not constantly having to run outside our motel during an excessive heat wave. The first time I really considered quitting in the middle of a shift was yesterday. For a side note, I work with people I went to school with, so we are all acquainted. I came in yesterday for a night audit, and my coworker and I usually make small talk while she's cleaning up and gathering her things to leave. Every once in a while, she'll talk about boys she's talking to or just general girl stuff. She started rambling on about how she forgot the underwear she bought was left in her purse, and she pulled them out to show me. I didn't really pay attention. I just nod my head and scroll on my phone while she does this. But then she starts saying she likes to try them on for guys and put on a show for them, and then asks me if I like to do that for boys. Excuse me? WTF? Then she asks if I want to see the underwear she's wearing, and without even waiting for me to answer or be like, WTF, she pulls down her pants to show me. I felt sick afterwards because I wasn't sure if this was considered sexual harassment. I'm sure she didn't intend for it to be, but it made me really uncomfortable. I really debated finishing my shift because I didn't know if I can work around her anymore. When I'm scheduled after her, she leaves the office a mess and I'm the one always cleaning it. She doesn't do any of her duties during her shift and I'm left to finish them. This coworker is just one of the many reasons why I don't know if I'll last here much longer. I wasn't always a night auditor. I worked solely afternoon shifts before our manager started working mornings 5 days a week, which bumped my coworker to afternoons and me to one afternoon shift a week and the rest graveyard. I don't mind because it's been chill and quiet, and I only get one person during the whole night. None, if I'm lucky. My only agreement to start working graveyard again was to not be scheduled a night shift, and then afternoon the next day because I cannot be bothered to sleep for 4 hours, and then have to drag myself back with a Red Bull in my hand? Maybe that's a bit entitled for me to request, but given that all of the night audits that have been hired since I started working here have quit, I figured it was the least my manager could do for me. Wrong. I was a fool. Maybe a week or two after I started working nights, I see that 3 to 11 shift on my schedule. After working audit 5 days in a row, my manager claimed that my coworker, all the coworkers I've mentioned are the same person by the way, not a shocker though, needed Mondays off for school, so I've been working Sunday night and coming back Monday afternoons every single week for almost 2 months now. Every week. I'm just really confused about how I communicate it to my manager, and then it just gets tossed out the window. At least give me Sundays off if you're gonna do all this. I don't really know what the point of this rant was. I have about 40 minutes left on my shift until I'm finally on my way home and into bed. Well, at least for 5 hours, until I have to get up and get ready for my afternoon shift. Yay. Update. I came back at 3. What a shock, I know. And my manager said, I thought it was your other coworker today. And I responded, no, it's me as usual, and I asked how long she was going to schedule me like this, and she said that my coworker has been asking for every Monday off. She said my coworker gave excuses like having appointments, family coming into town, stuff like that. My manager says she's not doing school anymore on Mondays, but she keeps asking for it off every week. What the hell, guys? I started boiling with anger, and I think she could tell. She said next week she was going to do the schedule different, and I said okay. I requested 3 days off next week for my brother's graduation and graduation party, so I know I'm guaranteed those days off, but still. I'm not surprised that my coworker did this, but I'm confused. Because often I'll come in Sunday night after the schedule is posted, and my coworker will ask me if I ever get annoyed being scheduled for the afternoon the next day. I wonder if she was low-key taunting me, knowing she asked for Monday off. 2. The scene. Some old-time horseshoe-shaped motel in a very hot state that begins with The kind where you pull up, park, and walk into your room. The parking lot is small and rectangular, with angled parking up one side, several spots across the back, and a few single parallel spots down the other side. Each spot is numbered to correspond with a room, but if we're not full, it's not a big deal where people park. The first phone call. The lady wants to make a reservation, but she got a new SUV and doesn't want anyone parked next to her. She'd like an end spot, so there's less chance of dings to her new car. She doesn't want any riff-raff parking next to her. She's booking a weeknight stay, so we will only be half full. No problem. The second phone call. She reminds us of her new car and the fact that she wants an end spot. She doesn't want to be parked next to any riff-raff. No Frankenfurters either. No problem. The arrival. She checks in and gets her end spot. She seems happy enough. Day 2, she comes back from dinner and rushes the office. Someone is in her spot. She's pissed. Like, out of proportion to the situation. I go out to assess and tell her the people who parked there checked into that room, and I offer to let her have the other end spot, so exact same setup. Other end, but still close to her room. I'm even about to offer her a cone on the other side since she's all hyped up. But now she goes full-on ballistic. "We had an agreement," she yells, and keeps yelling. She was insane. So I offer her one of the spots across the lot where she can parallel park, so no one will be on either side of her. Also apparently unacceptable. Get this. She then tells me if I won't go to knock on the people's door to tell them to move, she will. I tell her politely that she most certainly will not do that. Just then, the people in question exit their room. I say to them, "Hey guys, when you come back from wherever you're going, can you park in any space you want in the whole parking lot besides the one you're in? You can choose any space at all." They look at me like I'm crazy and say sure. The lady yells that I didn't have to talk like I was minimizing her concerns and making her look stupid in front of the other people. She keeps yelling she doesn't want riff-raff parking next to her. I swear it was insanity. I just walk away. My husband says, "What's all the ruckus about?" I say, "It's that lady with the new SUV complaining about her parking spot." Hubby says, "It's a Ford." Later that evening, Crazy Car Lady and her husband are outside on their bench. I don't like to argue with guests, so as I walk by them to lock up the laundry room, I tell them we are going to dinner, and ask if they would be needing anything else tonight. She says this exactly. "No, and I don't want to hear your mouth." I mean, holy crap. Our customers are always so nice. I just ignore her and walk back to dinner. Next day, and the point of telling you all this, guy checks in a few rooms down from Crazy Car Lady and her husband. He asks where he should park. I make him a parking pass and ask what he's driving. Dear readers, this made my day. Guess what he's driving? Freaking Maserati. Obviously, I tell him, "Go park near that Ford." 3. Every hotel struggles in this post-COVID era where business is booming but hiring people seems to be nearly impossible. Where I work, it's no different. For this month and the next, the entire front office is being run by one agent who has been with us for 6 months. Great guy, but doesn't even normally work full-time. A very green front office supervisor who got promoted a few weeks ago from an agent role from a different branch. An intern with a few weeks of experience, and a whole gaggle of temp people from a company that does employ a lot of receptionists, but not hotel receptionists. The difference is quite significant. I work night shifts exclusively. These temp receptionists have a bit of a habit of just simply not showing up for shifts, and having been extremely poorly trained, therefore thrown into the deep end. These two things are very likely related. They're not having a good time either. This weekend, we're fully booked both Friday and Saturday. Of course, both the new front office staff and the one guy who knows what he's doing both take a weekend off. All shifts filled with temps. I'll never claim they don't deserve some time off. They absolutely do, but the timing. Friday, the temp for the morning shift doesn't show up. Assistant GM takes over desks, so I can at least go home. Later, it turns out that the temp for the evening shift also didn't show up. A GM and the intern run the show for the whole day. Saturday wasn't much better. Friday night, however, I checked in my last guest at like 3 a.m. But he comes back, there's someone already in the room. Turns out a day earlier, a group of 2 rooms, 2 days, booked and paid for, a third room, which they were giving access to, but that was never properly entered into the computers. This third room was labeled vacant for 2 whole days and therefore sold as usual the day after, as we were fully booked, to a guy who just so happened to be the very last to check in. Pretty much nothing I could do for the guy and his very angry wife. Trying to rebook him elsewhere would have been almost impossible, as everything in a very wide area was completely sold out. So even if I found something, it'd take a long time. I gave him a refund and a taxi on our costs to where he parked his car, 2 kilometers from the hotel at some unrelated venue. That was shit night number 1. The very next evening, I walk into the hotel, and almost immediately after walking in, a guest complains that their key does not work. That's fine, I remake it. Still doesn't work. Okay, I'll walk with the guest to open the door. There were 2 other doors in the building that just wouldn't accept key cards anymore, so I have to walk those guests to the room each time they want to enter anyway, so not too new. But this door, it wouldn't even open with the skeleton key. That damn thing is supposed to be used in emergencies to always at any time give the option to open any door in the building. I can enter it into the lock, it just wouldn't turn. In well over 15 years of working at this location, I've never seen a lock do that. It also had a consistently lit red light, which never happens. Apart from the fact that we're fully booked, the guests have been in the room earlier that day and have their luggage inside. Among which, it turns out, critical medicine for one of the guests. I have to get into that room. I call my front office staff, no answer. I call my assistant GM, no answer. I call my GM, she answers. I explain the problem, get told to just use the skeleton key. Tell her that's the problem, it doesn't work. GM's instructions are basically as follows. Supposedly, there's a device that can be used to program these locks. Should come with clear instructions on how to use. If I can't get the lock reset with that, I'll have to call a locksmith. Okay. After some searching, I find the device. It does come with instructions, so that's nice. However, the device doesn't seem to want to turn on. Clearly, it's out of power. I see a battery cover on the back, but I need a small Phillips screwdriver to get it open. None came with the kit. So I gotta raid the maintenance office. 50 different kinds of screwdrivers, but finding the one I need turns out surprisingly difficult. Not that we actually have anyone employed in maintenance anymore, but they typically work on bigger stuff than small electronic devices. But I get the backplate off, and it's powered by a lithium-ion block. Why is that a problem? Because the power port on this device is a USB mini type. That's a very, very old kind of port. Everything nowadays uses USB-C, and if it's too old for that, it'll use a micro-USB port. Or it's an Apple device. Micro-USB was introduced in 2007, but the locks and this programmer are from way before then. Of course, because why the F would there be? No charging cable comes included in the little box the programmer is stored in. I already know trying to find a mini USB charging cable is an absolute fool's errand. So it's time to call a locksmith, which I would never have expected I would ever have to do just to open one of the guest room doors. No idea if they actually know anything about these old electronic locks, so I can only hope they do. I was in luck with that at least. The guy knew exactly what he was doing and managed to open the door without even really damaging anything. No luck restoring the door to proper order, however. Now the guests can at least enter their room, but the moment they leave and they close the door, we're effed again. They know this. Curious to know how that's going to turn out. I also refunded the guests' entire stay and gave them quite a lot to drink from the bar for free while we were waiting for access to the room. I can look forward to hearing what management thinks about that move later. And that's just the big stuff. So many more small things are all going wrong nowadays because nobody checks anything. Nobody reports anything. The handover is done more often with post-it notes than the actual forms that we have for those. I desperately hope we can hire a few real receptionists soon. And a maintenance guy. A guy can dream. 4. Howdy to all the folks on the front desk. Think you may appreciate this tale. Maybe you've experienced something similar, but this was a first for me. Let me tell you about an idiot. Our hotel is a mid-sized limited-service hotel with a bar and restaurant in New England. It's a sparse operation. I work alone from 3 to 11 on the front desk. My only other co-workers who share my shift are a bartender and a maintenance man. Shout out to the maintenance folks. I rely upon you for mostly everything. Our summer and fall wedding season is a big chunk of our business. Every weekend between Memorial Day and Thanksgiving, we are pretty much sold out. This past weekend, we accommodated 4 wedding parties who occupied more than half of our rooms. All the groups are arranged with our director of sales who negotiate the rates, and work up to sell food and beverages, bartending, event spaces, all the extra stuff that folks want. Anyway, on with the story. It was around 9:45 in the evening, and wedding guests were starting to return from their respective venues. The bar was full of guests, the pool full of children. At this time, one of the fathers of one of the brides rolls in through the front door, dragging a cooler. He calmly walks past the front desk where I am checking in a guest. He enters the bar and joins his daughter. The group he joins has not ordered any drinks, nor have they ordered any food. After checking in the customer in front of me, I follow the man into the bar and I see him opening his cooler. At that point, the bartender calls out while making a drink for another customer. She politely informs him that no outside food or beverage is allowed. The man stands up and starts to protest. He uses excuses like, "It's my daughter's wedding. We won't be here for long, we just got back." All bullshit. I interrupted him with something along the lines of, "Well, the bar is open and you're welcome to drink our booze. In fact, normally we close at 10, but tonight she is staying open, because wedding guests always return at closing time." She wants tips, let's be real, and weddings pretty much pay their bills. I respect her hustle, and the hotel loves it. Obviously, more drinks sold is good for the hotel. The dude starts to get angry and says something about all the business his daughter's wedding has brought the hotel. I could give a fuck. The rooms are already paid for. If they all want to break the law and drink outside beer in the bar, they can all get kicked out of the hotel. Good fucking luck finding a room in a small market last minute. I didn't say any of that, although I really wish I had. Instead, I just stood my ground and told him, "Listen, the only place you can drink the beer in your cooler is in your room. We could lose our liquor license otherwise. If you raise your voice in the bar again, I will ask you to go to your room." He blew a stack. Dude said, "I'm calling your director of sales. She negotiated the whole thing. She also said that we could do this." I replied with, "Let's call her on my phone right now, because I know she did not permit this. It is literally illegal to drink your own alcohol in a public place." I'm straight heated now. Man is trying to throw my director of sales in my face like that. I called my director of sales, put her on speaker, and asked if she had agreed to any of this, to which she said, "Of course not, we could lose our liquor license." The conversation lasted so much longer. While he was on the phone complaining to my director of sales, some arrivals walked in I had to attend to. After the check-ins, I received many apologies from his guests, including his daughter. They all went to a local restaurant, while the father went to bed. What a goddamn idiot. I think it's like ordering fucking Domino's while sitting in another restaurant. It's just wrong. Also, the director of sales called me while I drove home, and we had a nice conversation that lasted for almost an hour while I drank some beers in my apartment. I'm so fucking good at my job and I'm proud of it. 5. Hello, friends. It's been 7 months since this happened, and I think it's been long enough to tell this story. Last year I got a job in a huge hotel, and I had the best hotel manager I've ever had. After a few months, she had to resign due to moving to a different city with her family. She starts training this new guy to take over. He's very closed-minded, and they clashed when trying to do the handover, as he wasn't really taking any of what she said in. Fast forward maybe a month, and he decided to demote me from front office manager and hire a random to do my job. I then had to train, which didn't make sense, and he never had any hotel experience. Fast forward maybe a month. I start getting pulled up from the new front office manager to talk about the way I'm treating guests. I'm being too friendly, and you're creating an unrealistic expectation of how guests will be treated by the staff. Bro, what? It honestly was unbelievable. An example, helping a guest take their luggage to their room. A very normal hotel thing. But I wasn't allowed. He started being more and more rude to me over a couple of months, even being degrading in front of hotel guests and residents. I actually had a few come up to me and advise the way he's treating me isn't acceptable. His treatment of me got worse, telling me I'm not allowed to go to the bathroom without asking, yelling at me for being too helpful still, and he even started getting into arguments with the residents and guests. It brought me to tears a couple of times. I started keeping note of all the ridiculous things he was doing and started looking for a new job. Finally found a new job, put my 2 weeks notice in, and started asking for help to put together a letter to send to HR so they can hopefully do something. Once I left, I finished the letter and sent it to HR and the CEO. Didn't hear anything back for a while, until I heard from a friend that worked in the same brand hotel, different location, that both the front office manager and hotel manager resigned a couple of weeks after I sent my letter. I consider that a win. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Coahw, episode 92. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Please hit the like button before you go if you'd be so kind. It greatly helps me out, more than I could properly express. Alright, as far as I know, there's no special shout-outs today. I think later in the month is the next one. So let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. What is the name of the last book you either read or bought? Sometimes we buy books intending to read them and don't necessarily always get to them. In my case, it's a book I've actually read a number of times. It's called Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. This case, I've actually had the audiobook for quite a while. I got that off Audible when it first came out. And if I really like a book, because I don't have a lot of time to just sit down and read because this job takes a lot of time, and when I'm done with that, I just kind of want to kind of vegetate on the sofa a bit. But I do get through a lot of audiobooks. So if I really like one, I will also buy a physical copy of it for the bookshelf, thinking that maybe one day I will have a little time to just relax properly and read. So that expands my Neil Gaiman collection a little bit. I do have a copy of, I believe it's Trigger Warning, the short story one, or was it Fragile Things? It was one of them, I can't remember which one it was. And also Good Omens, and there's a few others I need. I need to find American Gods, and obviously the Sandman collection, but they can be expensive. That might take a while to gather, but I'll get there eventually. So what are some of your favorites? So last one you read or bought, or hell, just your favorite book. That would also be quite fun to hear. Let me know what you think in a comment below. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.